Good day. Again, this is Sir Renande Roldan, and today's video I am going to share to you piecewise functions. So what is piecewise function? A piecewise function is a function in which more than one formula is used to define the output. Each formula has its own domain, and the domain of the function is the union of all these smaller domains. Let us find the piecewise function from the given problem. A jeepney ride cost 10 pesos for the first 2 kilometers, and each additional kilometer adds 5 pesos to the fare. Use the piecewise function to represent the jeepney fare in terms of the distance in kilometers. How much is the passenger's fare if he traveled 7 kilometers more? Okay, so how many pieces of functions do we have in the problem? Let us represent the cost of the distance as C of D is equal to the pieces of function. So there are two pieces of functions in the problem. One is in this part of the problem. A jeepney ride costs 10 pesos for the first 2 kilometers. And the second one is each additional kilometer adds 5 pesos to the fare. Okay, so in the first piece, a passenger will pay 10 pesos if the distance traveled is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 2 kilometers. So that is one piece of the function in the problem. The second piece of function is in this part. So according to this, each additional kilometer adds 5 pesos to the fare. So adding 5 pesos to 10 pesos times the distance traveled more than 2 kilometers is equal to 10 plus 5 times D, or the distance traveled. This is the cost of the passenger's fare if the distance traveled is is greater than 2 kilometers. Okay, so and this is the piecewise function. The question is, how much is the passenger's fare if he traveled 7 kilometers more? Okay, so which of the two pieces of functions are we going to use to determine the passenger's fare for a traveler or passenger traveled 7 kilometers more? Okay, so since 7 kilometers, which is the distance, is greater than 2 kilometers, we are going to use this piece of function. Okay, so therefore C of D is equal to 10 plus 5D. So in this case, since the distance traveled is 7 kilometers, therefore C of 7 is equal to 10 plus 5 times 7, which is the distance in kilometers. And therefore, it is equal to 10 plus 5 times 7 is 35. So 10 plus 35 is equal to 45 pesos. So the passenger's fare after traveling 7 kilometers more is 45 pesos. Okay. Okay, next. An apple costs 30 pesos per piece. However, if you buy more than 5 pieces, they will mark down the price to 28 per piece. Use a piecewise function to represent the cost in terms of the number of apples bought. How much do 50 apples cost? Okay, so let us see how many piece of functions are there in the problem. We have this one, this part, an apple costs 30 pesos per piece. But however, the second part, if you buy more than 5 pieces, they will mark down the price to 28 per piece. So therefore, there are two pieces of function in the given problem. Let us represent the cost of the number of apples as C of n equals, okay, so 30 pesos is the price of the apple if the number of apple is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 5. So the cost of the apple is 30 pesos only if you buy 1 to 5 pieces. However, if you wanted to buy more than 5 pieces, the price will go down to 28 pesos per piece. So this represents the second piece in the piecewise. So 28 pesos times the number of apples is the function if n is greater than 5. So if you buy more than 5 apples, the price is 28 pesos only. So to get the cost of the apples more than 5 pieces, you're going to multiply 28 times the number of apples. Okay, the question is, how much do 50 apples cost? Okay, so from these pieces of function, which one are we going to use? So since 50 apples is greater than 5 apples, or the n is greater than 5, we are going to use this function. Okay, C of n is equal to 28n. So since we are going to find the cost of 50 apples, so C of 50 is equal to 28 times 50 pieces. And therefore, it is equal to 1,400 pesos. So 28 times 50 is 1,400. So 50 apples cost 1,400 pesos. Okay. So next. Okay. The cost of hiring a catering service to serve food for a party is 200 per head for 50 persons or less, 150 pesos per head for 51 to 100 persons, and 100 pesos per head for more than 100. Represent the total cost as a piecewise function of the number of attendees to the party. How much is the cost of the service for a 20 persons attendees? Okay, so how many pieces of functions are there in the problem? Let us analyze one by one. We have, for this one, uh, for this part, the cost of hiring a catering service to serve for the party is 200 per head. The second one, 100 pesos per head for 51 to 100 persons. And the last one is 100 per head or more than 100 pesos. So there are 3 pieces of function in the given problem. So let us represent the cost of the number of attendees or persons for the catering service as C of n is equal to 200 if n is greater than 0. We read this as greater than 0 going to the left. Although the symbol is less than, but we are going to read this from n as greater than going to the left. So this is if the number of person is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 50. 150 pesos if n is greater than or equal to 51 but less than or equal to 100. So you're going the service is 100 pesos or 150 pesos per head if the number of attendees is greater than or equal to 51 but less than or equal to 100. However, if the number of attendees is more than 100, we have 100 times the total number or the number of attendees if n is greater than 100. So the amount to be paid to the caterer if the number of attendees is more than 100 or greater than 100 is 100 times the number of attendees. So in this case, there are 3 pieces of function. Okay, the question is, how much is the cost of the service for 250 persons or for 250 attendees? So according to this, if n is greater than 100, so since we are going to find the cost of the catering service for 250 persons and 250 is greater than 100, therefore we are going to use this function. Okay. C of n is equal to 100n. So since our n is 250 and therefore C of 250, sorry, this is 250. Okay, this is 250 equals 100 times 250, which is equal to 25,000 pesos. So the caterer should be paid 25,000 pesos for 250 persons attendees in the food in the party. Okay. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something from this video.